want to turn it off in case it does, because if it does, it's like gonna be like prominent. Oh, hello. Hello, gamers. No, that's so good. No, that's perfect. I want that. I want that in the video. Helps me out occasionally.
You want me to be a presence that helps? I'm afraid.
What is up, gamers? Welcome to Anime Review 4. This review will have many firsts. It will be the first, oh god, I'm stuck in a cord. It will be the first review to have a script. It will be the first video in which I review more than one anime at a time. And it will be the shortest anime review in Smenbith history. Well, it better be at least. I'll be reviewing 4 animes, this being the 4th anime review. Some of these shows I have recently watched in search for news subjects. Some are shows I watched a while ago and I deemed unworthy of a review. So without any further ado, let's hop into the horror show that will be Anime Review 4. Go! So, with that beautiful dance number having been committed, let's continue. So, we're going to start with a show that I watched almost a full year ago at this point, and it is titled, it is actually free for Amazon Prime users if you want to, I'm sponsored by Amazon for this video, if you're interested in watching it. It is called Shoujo Shuumatsu Ryoku, translated roughly, Girl's Last Tour. Now this show, let's grab this. This show surrounds 2 young girls exploring the apocalyptic ruins in a, I'm going to try to pronounce this, it is a Kettengrad tractor tank, which I think in German means tank motorcycle, and that's what it looks like in the show, so that's appropriate. Good job naming it, Germans. Now I know what you're thinking. Ben! Didn't you just a year ago review another anime about cute girls riding in tanks?
Can't get enough.
The answer is yes. I appear to have strange preferences for my anime, whether they be conscious or not. So calm down. The ruins they explore are of a highly advanced society, which had built an enormous city with multiple levels constructed on top of one another, connected by a bunch of, like, tall towers. And the girls are trying to reach the top, hoping that they will find more food and supplies up there, because it's not doing so great in this apocalyptic wasteland that seems to have been destroyed by probably a pretty big war. The ruins, the city itself is just collapsing, and it seems to be completely devoid of life. Human or animals otherwise. The girls often find remains of, like, weaponry and a bunch of stuff, and they try to learn things about the world as they go around. It's actually kind of boring, because nothing really happens aside from the occasional, like, oh, is the tank gonna fall off a cliff?
Quality content.
No, it's not gonna fall off the cliff. But the girls themselves aren't that interesting as characters, but there are some interesting. Let's talk about the characters. First up, we have Cheeto. Cheeto drives and is smart. She likes to collect any books she can find.
She a cheetah?
She is a girl. Yuri shoots and is dumb. She also likes to eat a lot. Beyond that, their characters aren't very deep. But that kind of seems to be the point of what they're going for. I mean, they dab in the opening. what else do you want? Like, you want deep characters? No. You get a dab. You get the
I don't like how wide your eyes got.
you get the
Are you
you know,
gonna
like,
do it?
you know, like a you know, like a
No, that didn't work.
yeah, you know, like you know, like you know, like what?
Are you okay?
No.
It's on your head.
Everything's in my head. So what could have gone there? We're done dabbing. Yeah, they dab in the opening. That's where I left off. Really, the point of the show is just to put cute girls in an apocalyptic setting to enjoy the contrast. That's the point of the show. I'm trying to get more deep. I'm trying to explore the purpose of shows like this, because, like, let's be real. I think the reason I watch anime is because, like, it's weird. And, like, it's weird to a point that you want to know what the weirdest it can get is. You want to know what the limit is. The problem with anime is there's no limit. You can keep going forever. You'll never find the limit. I hope some of the shows I talk about will prove that today. So, yeah, that's why it's to enjoy the contrast. And that's why the girls are designed so, like, round and anime-y. So, they encounter a couple of humans on their journeys. The first one is named Kanazawa, and Kanazawa is a map maker who lives for his craft, pretty much, because he knows how valuable it is in a world where no one knows how to get around this sprawling city, because everyone's fucking dead. And while advancing with the girls to the next level on an elevator, the elevator shifts, and he loses all of his work. It falls off the side of the elevator, and he dives off to grab it, and the girls all grab him to pull him up, except he's just like, nah, just let me go.
That's really upsetting.
It's kind of sad.
I love maps.
The show's kind of sad.
Let him die. Get the map.
No, they pulled him back up, and then he gave them a camera. He immediately, like I said, he becomes depressed, and it's pretty sad. And when they go up to the next level, they never see him again, because they part ways.
I hope he's doing okay. Unlike some people I know.
Movie magic. Another person they run into is a woman named Ishi, who is trying to construct a plane to fly to the next city over. She is probably the smartest person they encounter, all things considered, because she's building a plane, and she's building it out of. They find her in this old abandoned hangar. Is that what you call it? Yeah, an old abandoned hangar. And she's using all the old parts there, and she's designing her own plane based off of the plans for all the old planes that she saw there. She designs the plane, she builds it, and she flies, but in its first flight, it kind of falls apart. And she, luckily, she did have a parachute, but she kind of just, like, depressingly floats down and down and down to the lowest stratum of the city. And these characters are meant to emphasize the hopelessness and the desolation of the world that they're living in. And Kanazawa loses the one thing he lives for, and he doesn't want to live in a world where he doesn't have his work. Ishi may be the last pilot in human history, and her failure is not only heartbreaking to her, but to the girls as well, because they have to watch her fall down and down and down and down and down and down, and they also know that she failed. And it's super sad. I won't spoil how the show ends, but it's pretty satisfying for how the show mostly works. And I think it creates a unique environment of loneliness and kind of desperation, despite the show's weird anime-ness that all animes have. If I had to give it a rating, I would give it a 6 out of 10. For an interesting world built by environment and side characters that falls short on the backs of the main characters. I'm trying to be very, judgy. I'm trying to be like a judge.
Uh-huh.
Alright, let's talk about Tanya the Evil. Okay. We're gonna skip forward in time and talk about a show I only watched just recently. Yojo Senki, the saga of Tanya the Evil. This show's weird and very violent. The show is set in an alternate universe, World War I, with slightly different country names and times where things happen. Another important factor, magic. Both sides possess mages who can fly and use powerful offensive and defensive magic using certain technology and special crystals that I know nothing about, and I'm not interested enough to dive into the game lore about how they show lore about how they work. The main character is a 10-year-old German mage named Tanya von Degerschaff. That's right, I said 10 years old. I think she's 12 by the end of the show, but still. Tanya is a very powerful mage who is highly skilled on the battlefield and nicknamed the Devil of the Rhine for how many people she's fucking killed. Now you might be thinking, this is weird, but I can kind of see it, because it's like anime. Well, get ready for the next level of shit. Tanya is not actually Tanya. She was originally a businessman living in Japan before he was reborn into another world as a little girl named Tanya! Sorry, that was a little hard to say. Anyway, Tanya used to be a dude whose job was essentially firing people, and one day one of the guys he fired back and shoved him in front of a train. Right before he died, though, God himself stops time and uses the faces of surrounding people to basically be like, hey man, why don't you believe in me? What? You have to have faith, man. And he basically calls God a bitch and says that people only believe in God when they're in desperate circumstances and need something to hold on to. And God is like, oh, so if I put you in those desperate circumstances, you'll believe in me? And thus the plot is born. Basically, the deal is Tanya has to die of natural causes, or she won't be reincarnated into the afterlife. Or she could just believe in God, but she's not doing that. So she just starts calling him Being X out of spite, because she's like, God doesn't exist, even though I literally met God. I will actually say I am impressed that this anime follows the trope of anime girl looks like she's 10, but actually is secretly an adult / 500 years old. And doesn't, and I said trope there.
It's an out for the pedos.
I said trope there. That happens a lot in anime.
Again, out for the pedos.
Yeah. And it doesn't sexualize her.
Oh, that's good.
Not once. Monogatari had not one, not two, but 3 characters that followed this trope. And they heavily sexualized every single one because it's Monogatari. It's kind of funny because Tanya is just a respected military major. Like, there's a couple of moments where people are like, oh, she's as old as my daughter. Oh, God. But pretty much everyone else is just like, yeah, put her on the front lines. She's a good soldier. Tanya von Degerschaff, yeah, she's interesting, but she's all in all a little violent, but she's a good soldier. She fights well. No one gives a shit that she's 10 years old. And even that guy who's like, I have a daughter the same age as her, he still put her in battle. He still didn't care. Also, quick side note. I think it's hilarious that I can describe this show by saying it's about a young child with very blonde hair whose young age was overlooked by the military because of powerful magic they can use with the military rank of Major, who doesn't believe in God despite meeting God themselves, and have it not be about Full Metal Alchemist. Now, I'm not trying to say this show is Full Metal Alchemist, because it's not. I'm also trying to not say it's as good as Full Metal Alchemist, because it is most certainly not. The show isn't bad, but it's not good either. It fails to use its uniqueness in an interesting way. There's a couple of funny moments where Tanya says she hates secondhand smoke, and everyone's like, ha, crazy kid. But by the 4th episode, there's not really hardly anyone's talking about Tanya's age, and they act like it's normal to have an 11-year-old in the military. And she doesn't use any of her past, knowledge for anything. I'm gonna show a great clip now of Tanya warning a bunch of military dudes that she's gonna bomb them right before she does. But she uses her kid voice so they think it's a trick, and they all like by a little kid. That's playing now. Uh, it also kind of it turns into like a boring military drama by the end. Like a lot of times she's not fighting. I mean, like it's like you know how it's like you have those shows where it's like my plan is so perfect nothing can go wrong. I thought about every single contingency, and the other one's like, oh yeah, well I realized what your plan was and I planned around it. Like yeah, well I have 70 alternative accounts. You'll never know my main. The show does have one saving grace: the fights. Let's talk about the fights.
You are not allowed to fuck my wife.
You are not allowed to fuck my wife. Let's talk about the fights. They are brutal, but the show doesn't shy away from being gory, and it very much fits into the style of the show because it's a military show. It's about death and stuff. But like the sheer fluidity of the movement and especially the sound design in this show, it works together to create this like insane whacked out power fantasy, but kind of like in a good way. Because like you watch shows like JoJo and it's like it spends like 10 minutes on like a single punch and talking about the power of the punch. But this show doesn't worry about like explaining things to you. It just like moves so fast that you don't even worry about anything. Yojo Senki, the saga of Tanya the Evil, gets a 9 out of 10 for its name, which literally translates to little girl military history, the saga of Tanya the Evil, but overall gets a 5 out of 10 for its stunning battles, interesting preface, but a boring progression and the feeling that the characters were not being utilized to the fullest. By the way, if you want to have a stroke or a seizure, you should watch the opening for the show. Link in the description. Okay, time for an adventure. All right, time for number 3. While Girls Last Tour was a show about 2 children trying to increase their altitude, this next one follows 2 kids trying to go down as deep into a hole as humanly possible. That's right. I'm talking about Made in Abyss. Let's go. Let's go up a little bit more.
Okay, great.
Are you having fun?
I am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That really means a lot to me. Made in Abyss is an Astro Boy-esque story about a girl living in a town built around the abyss, which is an enormous, uncharted abyss. It's basically just a big hole with a bunch of different layers. As you go deeper, it gets worse and scarier and worse and more dangerous and worse. Naturally, our main character Rico, who is 12 years old, wants to explore this big hole because her mom was really good at exploring it, so, gotta follow in mom's footsteps. Luckily for her, when she's exploring the upper levels of the abyss, she finds a humanoid robot that seems to be pseudo-human, but she takes it back to her home in the orphanage because her mom abandoned her and went into the abyss, you know, because that's what all good parents do, absorbed in their work. Luckily for her, she finds the humanoid robot. She takes it home. She names him Reg, and very creative. He seems to be kind of somewhat human because he can eat food. Yeah, that failed. He can eat food or be charged by electricity. So it's his choice, however he wants to power himself. Anyway, back to the plot. He near the beginning of the show, Rico's mom, Liza the Annihilator, what a pretty cool name, is announced dead. And Rico pretty much completely denies this, and she's like, no, she's totally alive. So she vows to make it to the bottom of the abyss where she believes her mom is waiting for her. It's kind of nice, right? Let's move on a little bit. Let's go to the abyss.
How you doing? Just the sound of me tumbling down the rocks.
I turn back, I just see, just in time to see you fall.
Wait, I don't want to
I would be
crush
so
the snails.
disappointed if my death wasn't on. Then don't step on the snails. I would be so disappointed if my death wasn't on video. As a YouTuber, it's important to me that as a YouTuber, it's important that every second, every important moment of my life is recorded. Okay, this part is like in a video game where you have to like climb the ledge.
Yeah. Oh,
I told you. Hello, travelers. Do me a favor and read the last paragraph for me.
do you want me to do it in character as you?
Yes, please.
All right.
That's all I want in the world.
So she and Reg adventure down to the bottom of the abyss, but it's a long way. And if you come back up even a little bit, you're stuck with the curse of the abyss, which has varying side effects depending on what level you're on. The top layers only really cause nausea, but it gets worse as you go down.
Good job.
Thank you.
Can I see that?
No.
Fucking terrible. Okay, let's go. This is the throne. This is where I belong. For all I've done. The script is gone. I mean, it was a mostly scripted video, but this is as far as it's coming. The show is, when they go down into the abyss, it's very, like, happy, like, adventure time, but there's this, like, not actually adventure time in the show, but, like, you know what I mean. So, there's like, this nagging feeling in the back of your head as they go down further and further. It's like, the curse of the abyss is real, and it's dangerous. It's like, they don't play it down when they're describing it, but like they're kids, they want to have an adventure. They're like, we'll be fine, and I don't plan on coming back up because I'm just going down to see my mom, and we'll be together down there. But Rika goes down, she comes up a little bit, and she's like nauseous. Rika goes down, she comes up a little bit, she has like headaches and like throws up, and you're like, okay, so that's gonna be really tough to come up from here if she wanted to. It's like this terrible feeling of no return. It's a weird thing for a TV show because like nothing is gonna be the same from one episode to another because they keep moving on to new places. They can never go back and go back up and explore back where they went before. They have to keep going. Let's talk about where the show gets dark. There's a moment, so this is around episode 10, where Rico gets stabbed by a poisonous barb of a monster, and it's like so deadly poison that no one's ever survived it unless they like amputated the arm. And to escape the monster, Reg uses his like rocket arm to bring them back up to the next like level up, but it's like 50 feet up. And when she gets up there, now that they're down in like the 4th level, the curse of the abyss is worse. And when she gets up there, she starts like crying blood. Like she starts like blood's coming out of her ears, out of her eyes, out of her nose, like everything. And she's like terribly hallucinating and everything. And it's like, and she's screaming and it's absolutely terrifying and fucked up. And Reg doesn't know what to do. And she's like, you have to cut off my arm. You have to cut off my arm. Cut off my arm. Cut off my arm. Do it now. I'm going to die. This is the only way I can live. And you have to cut it here, because if you cut it here, I won't be able to cave adventure anymore. And so he's like, okay, guess I'm cutting through the bone. And so he takes like a knife, like a small knife, and starts chopping away at her arm here. And she's like screaming, flipping out, dying. And then they are saved by a bunny girl. Not the bunny girl you may be thinking of. Not Bunny Girl Senpai herself. No, not her. But a bunny girl named Nanachi. And Nanachi is a bunny girl. She has bunny ears. She's like half rabbit, essentially. And she takes them back to her home, and she nurses Rico back to health using an antidote that she's concocted, using a bunch of mushrooms, putting it on her wound. And then you learn Nanachi's story, and Nanachi, oh boy. So it's really screwed up. It's really screwed up. And then Rico gets better, and they leave. But that's where the show ends. And it's that's where it has to stop, because there's 13 episodes. They went as far as they could. I would be interested in what happens next, but it's interesting to know that the show is not all fun and games as it appears at the beginning. Things get bad. Overall, I would give this show a 7 out of 10 for a very interesting world and a compelling story arc that continuously reminds you that there is no way to return to the way things once were. And now, we have one more anime to review tonight. I don't know what it's going to be, but we're about to find out. Can I see the paper?
No. I'll be right back.
These are the options. Take a good look at them. One of these will be the show I review as the 4th anime. I've not prepared a script for any of them because I'm lazy as hell, but we'll see which one it does, and I'll just do it as I go. Blake, my subject, you will hold this in a safe way, and I will shoot it with this specially modified Nerf gun. Specially modified Nerf gun, meaning, let me see if I can show you the bullet. I have modified this bullet in such a way that it will stab through the paper when fired. 3, 2, 1. Ah! Did it do anything?
Yeah, right here.
Oh, wow! The winner is Kakagurui. I think that's how you pronounce it.
You can't see your head.
I know, I can tell. It's more important that they see that there's a hole in Kakagurui, right there. See, it pierced it right there. I was kind of expecting the bullet to go through all the way, because during a test run, that's what it did. Test fire. Ah, that works! Oh. But to be fair, we were using a different type of ammunition then, so. Can we do an ASMR bit here?
Yeah, of course.
Can we do ASMR Smenbith talks to you about his favorite anime while you're sitting across from him on a couch? Oh, you want to know about my favorite anime? Oh, it's a little something called Kakagurui. It's a Netflix original anime that's about a school where everything, whether it be your class rank or your popularity, is based on how well you can gamble. Everyone in the school gambles with each other in these intense, nerve-wracking situations. There's some really high-stakes games. At a certain point, one of the girls makes the main girl bet all of her fingernails and toenails on whether or not she can win the bet. There's plenty of moments where they play Russian roulette. There's a whole lot of, with real bullets, obviously. There's a whole lot of points in the show where people like stake their lives, like they will become a slave to the other person if they lose. It's a really interesting show, and I'm really about that like interesting concept for animes. I don't really like watching like the basic high school girl show. I need to watch something that's new and crazy. And this really got it for me.
Where did this character come from?
Hole in my sock! 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 On the subject of basic high school animes, so something that I like about anime is that think about it like this. You have a high school, you have a TV show or a movie about high school in American culture. You can really only tell 2 stories. The not popular person becoming popular, learning that it's not all it's cracked up to be, and taking down the popular kids from the inside. Or the my club/sports team goes to the championships. Those are the only 2 stories you can tell in in American culture when it comes to high school,
Mean Girls
media.
or Girls und Panzer?
Mean Girls or Girls und Panzer. Shows like shows and movies like also no, you know what? I was about to say that like Booksmart would be an example of a movie that's different, but it's really not, because it's like lame people hanging out with the popular people. But anyway, as I was saying, in Japan, no rules apply when it comes to high school shows. I mean, like, yeah, you still have like Girls and Panzer technically falls into the category of my team goes to the championships, but
also falls into
not in
other
any
subcategories.
standard way. Think about shows like I haven't watched a whole lot of shows. K-On! K-On! Is a show about a bunch of girls just playing music. I haven't watched it, but I know that's what it's about. That's not like, that's just fun. It's not like a championship or anything. Maybe there is. I don't know anything. Nichijou, no structure at all.
No plot.
It's just pure insanity. There's no rules, and that's what's fun about it. And Kakegurui is no exception. It's a weird show that is... I can't even describe how weird it is, because it's like there's spit flying, people like getting off on their gambles. I don't really want to talk about Kakegurui anymore. There's not much to it besides that. I think a second season just came out. I might watch it if I care. I don't really. The first season ended pretty fine. I didn't think there needed to be a second season. I was like, okay, cool.
If I care.
Yeah, if I care, I do not. My final rating for Kakegurui.
Sorry.
My final rating for Kakegurui is 4 out of 5, with an interesting concept, a weird concept, but an interesting concept that was played out very weirdly and very like. If you have a kink for gambling, or like spit, you'll really like this show. It's for you.
I'll quote you on that.
If you have a kink for gambling, you'll really like this show.
Or spit.
Or spit. Anyway, that's Anime Review 4. It definitely was not the shortest anime review. But we're going. Go! Oh, you show.